Hey everybody, I want to talk with you all about the injustice boycott. I'm actually in a hotel in Minnesota about to catch my flight back to New York, and have been here. I just got here yesterday evening. Spoke three times in St. Paul and Minneapolis, and it was a powerful opportunity. And let me tweet real quick that we're about to go live. Hold on one second, and I want to talk with us about the injustice boycott. Okay, so let me tweet this real quick, and then we will get rolling. I was just on the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and so I don't know how many of you were able to tune in, but thank all of you who do that. If you were there, Tom was gracious enough to announce that I'll be back on the Tom Joyner Morning Show on Monday, which is the day we are launching the Injustice Boycott. I'll also be there on Tuesday. So I'm going to give people just a few seconds to tune in. There's always this moment where you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself because you want to give people a chance to come in. But let me close this. Um, Thank you all for coming, for being here in the morning, and thank you all for again who were able to check us out on the Tom Joyner Morning Show. Tom's a great guy. The staff is great. So I want to talk with you for a few minutes about the injustice boycott, and I want to give you a little context for what we're going to be asking you to do on Monday, and and then kind of show you where we're going with it. I've learned some really hard lessons over the past 2 years about organizing, and I'm actually a really transparent guy, and so some of those lessons that I've learned have been from just mistakes that we've made over how you organize a national movement in 2016 in this modern era with social media and technology, with Donald Trump in the age and era of Donald Trump. How you break through is very different, and almost a little more than a year ago, almost a year and a half ago, I was about to launch something called Justice Together, and it crashed and burned and was a miserable failure. And let me tell you one lesson that I learned. We had people who had signed up in all 50 states, in over 300 cities across the country, 300 almost every major city in the country, in almost 50 countries all around the world. And right before we got ready to launch it, we basically told the entire world what we were about to do. And right before we got ready to launch it was when uh, it started with like white supremacists basically saying, days before we were going to launch, which was in August of 2015, listen, this guy is actually a white guy pretending to be black. And at first, when they did that, I did not think it was gonna. My wife and I saw it, and people lied on us so much over the past few years that we thought it was just gonna blow over, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then Don Lemon picked it up and talked about it on CNN, and then it became literally the number one trending topic. Get this, in the world. It was on the front page of dozens of papers all over the country, and this was days before we were about to launch Justice Together. And it sent my entire life into a tailspin, my personal life into a tailspin, and it was not a minor distraction. It was a major distraction from what we were trying to do, and it was just an ugly moment, and it completely threw me off, and I just wasn't prepared for that, and so it threw us off, and it threw what we were trying to start off, and it's caused me, while I'm still a very public figure, I still do what I do on Facebook or Twitter, I still go and speak. It's caused me to realize that you have to hold some of your organizing cards very close to your chest. And so for the past almost 3 months now, we've been planning and strategizing what the injustice boycott is going to look like. But unlike what I did previously, we've held these cards very close to our chest. We've said very little about what it's going to look like, how we're going to do it, where we're going to do it, what businesses we're going to target, in great part because I learned, and other people have learned in their own ways, that when you tell too much about what it is you're going to do, it makes it way too easy for you to be attacked and for your for your plans to be attacked and undermined. So we may have swung the pendulum far in the other direction where we haven't given a whole lot of information, but our goal has been to keep it strong until we launch. And so if you have not signed up, sign up at injusticeboycott.com. And we're going to be sending everybody emails. We may not email you until, I see you said you haven't received an email. You may not receive an email until Monday when we make the announcement. And sign up there, and we will also update the numbers on the website. We've had hundreds of thousands of people sign up, even more than it currently says on the website. And so let me tell you, at least give you a sneak peek of our strategy. When we launch on Monday, we're going to announce 3 particular cities that we are starting in, and then we're going to roll the boycott out in those 3 cities. But it's not a boycott just for those 3 cities. We're asking the entire nation to participate in the boycott of those 3 cities, of businesses in those cities, of tourism in those cities. And we want to zero in our focus on those 3 particular cities. Secondly, I want to tell you, and you've probably seen some of what I've been doing here, even on my Facebook page and on my stories for the New York Daily News. I've been it's injusticeboycott.com. Some of you ask what it is. Injusticeboycott.com. I've voted Democrat my entire life, and my mother was a Democrat for her entire life. I voted in I'm 37. I voted in my first presidential election. I think was for Bill Clinton, and then I voted for Al Gore. I voted for John Kerry. I voted for Barack Obama twice. I voted for Hillary Clinton, and a lot of those times that wasn't who I wanted. I was not excited about those candidates, but we were always having to choose between the lesser of 2 evils, and it's a problem. So you'll see here on my page and in my stories for the Daily News, I've been focused on a lot of my frustration on the Democratic Party, because we have all across the country Democratic leaders in our cities, so-called progressive cities with progressive leaders, who are doing almost nothing to address issues of injustice and police brutality in their cities. And it's a problem that, like, we shouldn't expect Donald Trump to do much about police brutality. And the truth is, even President Obama, and this is not a diss, President Obama has done very little about police brutality, because it's not a federal, by and large, it's not a federal problem. It's a local problem. Well, if it's a local problem, we have to focus our energy and our attention on local cities. And we have to hold our local leaders, particularly leaders that we voted into office, so-called Democratic progressive leaders, we have to hold them accountable. So when we launch on Monday, we fully expect some leaders to be surprised, like, damn, I can't believe they're about to boycott our city. But if we elected you, and police brutality and systemic injustice continues to be a problem in your city, we're going to hold you accountable. And so when we launch on Monday, we're going to announce the first 10 cities that we will be boycotting. But part of our strategy is, at first, the boycott will just be for City 1, City 2, and City 3. We're going to ask all of you, all of us, to join in boycotting those 3 cities. We'll explain what that means on Monday. And then if cities 1, 2, and 3 meet, will there be a rationale for the boycott in those cities? Absolutely. And we'll explain all this on Monday. I just saw one of your questions pop up and wanted to respond to it. I'll take some questions in just a minute, okay? But we're going to focus on cities 1, 2, and 3, and to make sure that we have a strong foundation, that we are doing it the right way. And when we do that, if cities 1, 2, and 3 meet the very clear demands that we spell out, we'll remove them from the boycott list. And if that takes a week, or if that takes a month, or like if the Montgomery bus boycott, if it takes 400 days, however long it takes, we will boycott your city, and we will grow it and grow it and grow it. Now, I'll explain in a few minutes that we will have opportunities, particularly for businesses of color, businesses owned by people of color, and other oppressed groups, to to still give them love in those cities, and we'll explain that. But as soon as we remove a city off of the top 3 boycott list, whatever city we have listed as number 4 will move up into that top 3. So the boycott will always be focused on 3 major cities, and we'll do 3 cities at a time. And we won't just be boycotting tourism in those cities. We'll be boycotting particular businesses, and we also have local strategies of very particular things that people can do in those cities to make a very practical difference. And so I can't tell you those cities. We don't want to undermine our momentum or what we're going to do, but you'll understand right away. All 3 of these places have systemic problems with police brutality. All 3 of them, you are familiar with stories and problems in those cities, and those cities continue to refuse to do the very basic things that local activists and leaders have said. We just need you to make these 3 changes. We just need you to do these 4 things. And the cities see it, and they've refused to acknowledge it, even though they have progressive leaders, Democratic city council members, and all that. They've refused to be proactive like we need them to. And so we're going to roll it out on Monday. You'll kind of get detailed instructions, one on the website, but you'll hear first from us through email. We also have text messages and other things that we'll be sending out as well. But this is not a petition, and I am not knocking petitions, but I have signed across the years. I've signed, I guess, hundreds of petitions. A boycott is not a Facebook page. It's not an email list. What we're asking you to do is make a very serious commitment to changing the conditions in these cities, and we're going to make it happen. And it's happened before. Boycotts are hard. They're difficult. People want to break them. But we're going to ask you to make a serious life commitment to this boycott until we see the change happen. And, we'll go from there. And some of it is you can't plan it all out. I mean, when we launch on Monday, we're kind of we're calling Monday Phase 1. And that's December the 5th, which is the anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott. We chose that day because it's the anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott. And then after we launch on Monday, that's Phase 1. Phase 2 will actually be on King Day, which I believe is January 16th, there in 2017, just a few days before the inauguration. Phase 2 of our boycott is on King Day, and we're choosing those days, the anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott. We're choosing King Day, and we're doing that because we want to show people that we've organized before. And I know on King Day in cities all across the country, like people, again, I've done this before, so I'm speaking about myself. I'm not. And if you're going to do this on King Day, God bless you. But cities all across the country go pick up trash on King Day, and I refuse to believe that picking up trash on the street is the best personification of Dr. King that we have today. That's, I'm not feeling it. And so pick up trash doing that is better than nothing. Doing that is better than staying inside. But we're trying to kind of reclaim Dr. King, to reclaim the legacy of our ancestors who've done this before. And boycotts have worked before. Organizing has worked before. And there's something I've been saying. I'm speaking all across the country on a speaking tour, and we have to get to the point where, like, here's our outrage, and we should be outraged. We should be this outrage. But here's our organization. And again, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about myself. Talking about all of us. That we need to get to the point where we don't need to bring our outrage down. That's not what we need to do. But we need to bring our organization up where we are as organized as we are outraged. And right now, we are so outraged and consistently outraged, as we should be, that it actually, I'm very compassionate about this, it actually makes it incredibly difficult to be organized, because as soon as we begin organizing on one issue, something else happens that heightens our outrage, and it makes it very difficult for our organization and our outrage to be on the same plane. And what I see when I study movements throughout history is that is always a difficult problem. Throughout history, we have always had significant reason after reason after reason to be perpetually outraged. But as our people have been able to find creative ways to get their organization to line up with their outrage, they've always been able to get so much more done. And that's what the Montgomery bus boycott, that's what that was about, is saying, okay, damn it, the Montgomery bus boycott was not about black folks saying, I want to sit next to white folk on the bus. That's not what that was about. It was about black folks saying, I'm tired of being humiliated when I paid my fair share to be on this bus. It's not about, nothing about the civil rights movement was about black folks' deep desire to be around white folk. I talked to leaders of the civil rights movement who told me even the lunch counters that they would boycott to try to integrate, they weren't dying to eat at those lunch counters, and they even told me they didn't even like the food at those lunch counters. But it was saying, now if I want to go to this lunch counter, if I want to eat here, I want to know that myself or my family or my friends or my loved ones aren't going to be humiliated in the process. And so they always found ways for their organization and their outrage to line up. And that's where I'm hoping we can go with this injustice boycott, that we can find ways, even though we are so pissed and so angry about what continues to happen. You may have heard me say on the Tom Joyner Morning Show, since Donald Trump was elected president, American police have killed 69 people. And most of us could not name, if we wanted to, could not name a single one of those people. And I'm not knocking it. We've been so terrified of what it means to have Donald Trump as our next president that it's been hard to focus on much else. But the challenge is that we are so outraged and so frustrated that the quality of our organizing stays lower than it needs to be. And now that's a generalization. There are some deeply organized forms of resistance happening all over the country. But what I'm hoping this boycott can do is help all of us, all of you who are listening and watching this video, help all of us nationally take our organization and put it on the same level as our outrage. I think as we do that, as those things are on the same plane, I think we'll be able to see some fruits of our labor for a change and see some change take place. I'm excited to do it. I'm working with local activists in the cities where we're going to announce on Monday, and a huge part of what we hope to do is just amplify the efforts that are already happening in these cities. We are not dictating anything that needs to happen in these cities, because local activists have already been saying it for years on end. But we're hoping to put a national spotlight on what local activists have already been doing, people who have already been dedicated to fighting against injustice in cities all across the country. We want to put a strategic spotlight on those cities and on those efforts. So we're starting on December the 5th, and it's a very important day for a lot of reasons. I won't give away anything else, but I'm excited for us to put our money where our mouth is, if you will, for us to have strategic spending. We're at a point where so many of us are used to having people that we thought were our friends in the Oval Office, but we're at a point where we know Donald Trump is not our friend. He's not a friend, not just the people of color, but he is really an enemy to so many different people. And he's announced this. This isn't me making him into an enemy. He made himself into an enemy of Muslims, of immigrants, of Latinos, of African Americans, from his actions, from LGBTQ folks, of women. And when that happens and someone like him is put into office, we have to be much more strategic about our decisions. We have to be wise. We have to be intelligent. And one of the things that we do have, no matter who's in office, is we can be strategic with how we spend our money. And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to make our money count. We're going to show what that means when we actually make it count. And if we do this right, and if we hold out, if we grow it, Monday will not be our biggest day. We'll have to grow and grow and grow. There'll be twists and turns. There'll be moments where we'll wonder if it's going to work, and part of what you have to do is just hold out. And once we launch on Monday, you'll be hearing from me a whole lot more about the boycott. It's going to be a huge part of my daily life for most of the. Once we launch on Monday, I'm doing very little traveling for the next month after that, so that I can focus almost exclusively on the boycott and rolling it out. And then in January and February, I'll be in cities all across the country, and we'll post that as well to help us strengthen the boycott and make it happen. So I appreciate you all. I got to go, got to catch a flight, heading back to New York to be with my family. Speaking at a private event at a college in New York later tonight. But excited that we're doing it. Let's roll, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to do together. Take care. I said I would take a few questions. Daryl said we should have launched before Black Friday. I actually agree with that. Disagree with that, Daryl. There were a lot of people who are already doing boycotts on Black Friday, and we just didn't want to get in the way of that. And our boycott is not about a day. I'm all for people boycotting Black Friday. I get that, but this is a long-term boycott, and it's not so much about just shopping. You'll see when we roll out that part of what we were thinking is because people already had plans they had announced for Black Friday, we just didn't want to interrupt those plans. And you know, what we're doing is a long-term boycott, and we didn't want people to be confused and think, okay, I boycotted Black Friday and now I'm good. And so we just avoided that altogether. And part of what we're doing is trying to change people's thinking on what this looks like. Yeah, thanks, Daryl. If anybody has any other questions, that's great. I'm gonna after I finish this video, will be on my Facebook page where you can start over and watch from the beginning. Let me see. Brian said, what can people do that live outside of those first three cities during the boycott? We'll announce that on Monday. Each of those three cities are cities that have businesses and corporations that also rely on a certain level of tourism. We're holding our cards very close to our chest until Monday. I said why at the very beginning of this video, but there'll be things for all of us to do, me, you, and all of us, no matter where you live, not only in the United States, but for those of you who live all around the world, there'll be ways for you to support those three cities. Yeah, we are in those cities. We're going to be, somebody said something about supporting black businesses in those cities. And it won't just be black businesses, but there'll be businesses owned by people of color, people who will be directly affected by the boycott, negatively affected, who support the boycott. We'll have strategic ways that we think we can actually help those businesses grow their business during the boycott. I have probably time for one more question, and then we'll head out. Okay. You could go to injusticeboycott.com. If somebody can type it in here, that's great. Yeah, somebody said, is there something you could do from? I'll take this last question, Keandre. You said, when do we expect results, and how soon will we see them? We don't know, man. We don't know. And let me linger there for a second, and I'll close out with that, okay? The Montgomery bus boycott lasted for almost 400 days. I think they didn't know it would last that long. I mean, there was, I've studied it. Some people when they first started thought maybe it would last for a couple weeks, and then they said, okay, this might last for a couple months, and then it lasted for longer than a year until the system finally caved in and broke. Our commitment will be for as long as it takes. Now, part of our strategy, Keandre, that you may have heard a minute ago, is we're doing something a little different than the Montgomery bus boycott. The Montgomery bus boycott targeted a government that was decidedly apprehensive and decidedly oppositional to black folk. We are targeting Democratic leaders from the Democratic Party who lead progressive cities, who claim to be sensitive to our concerns and needs, who we helped elect. And so we hope, we don't know, but our hope, our theory is that because even some of these mayors and city council people in the cities that we will be boycotting, we have relationships with them. We know them. And we hope that that will speed up the pace of change, but it may not. And we'll have to wait and see. Our commitment will be long term. We hope that it will speed up the change that we want to see, because these will be progressive cities with progressive, so-called progressive people. But we don't know. And so I appreciate you all. I got to run, but you'll hear more from us on Monday. Okay, I'll email you all first, and if you've signed up, you can sign up now at injusticeboycott.com, and I'll talk to you all on Monday. All right, I'll be back on the Tom Joyner Morning Show on Monday and on Tuesday talking about the boycott, and we'll go from there. All right, take care, everybody.